Speaking Myanmar, lessons for English-speaking learners. Particles, past tense. In this lesson, I'm going to discuss how to say something that took place in the past, such as, I went to the store. You do that by adding a particle to the verb in order to create past tense. So first, you'll learn how to pronounce it. Then, you're going to learn where to put it in a sentence. Lastly, you'll learn whether you'll always need to use it. So let's get started. This is what the past tense particle looks like. It's the letter ka, but it has two symbols that change that pronunciation. So this symbol normally creates a high tone, and that's the long tone that usually starts with a higher pitch and drops to low. It also switches the implied vowel sound from a to e. So it would be ke. However, it also has this symbol, which changes the high tone to a creaky tone, a short, falling tone that ends with a glottal stop. So, the pronunciation is ke or ge. And I'll explain which one to use a little later in this lesson. Now, the next thing you'll need to know is where to put this past tense particle in relation to the verb. Well, first, let's review some of the other particles I've discussed in earlier lessons. Now, let's start with the verb for to go, thwa. This is its root form. The first particle we'll look at, I covered it in an earlier lesson, is the affirmative sentence ending particle de. So you'd say it, thwa de. Now this makes a statement positive. Now, I'm not going to show it here, but in another lesson, I covered how to add particles to make a statement negative, such as when you would say, I didn't go or I'm not going. Now I've also covered how to make a verb future tense by adding the future tense particle me. So in this case, it would be thwa me, I will go. Now notice that both are placed after the verb. So, where do you think we should place the past tense particle? If you said after the verb, you would be right. But there's one more step we have to take. While those other particles we talked about can be used to end a sentence, the past tense particle cannot. You'll need to add a verb ending particle, and it's one you've already learned. It's the affirmative particle de. So to say went, it would sound like thwagere. Just remember, the past tense particle follows the verb, but it's not a verb ending particle. Therefore, a verb ending particle must follow, and it's almost always the particle de. Let's look at some examples. Here's our particle combination for past tense. So let's look at 3 examples. If I wanted to say I lived somewhere in the past, I would say negere. To say I ate something in the past, sagere. If I wanted to say I read something in the past, I would say pakere. Now, did you notice I used the harder, aspirated K sound? It's just a slight difference. Why is that? Well, as I've covered in other lessons, the tone of the syllable that comes before an aspirated consonant determines whether it will be pronounced with aspiration or not. So, in these first 2 examples, the tone preceding the aspirated consonant was either the low or high tone. And when that happens, the aspirated consonant that follows is pronounced without aspiration. In this case, giving it more of the G sound, ge. But in the third example, a stop tone preceded it, pat. And that's when it's pronounced with aspiration, the harder K sound. Quiere. Now, in reality, the past tense particle is sometimes left out of statements. Even though something took place in the past, only the affirmative particle de is used. That's very different than what we're used to in English. Sometimes, if the context makes it clear you're talking about something that happened in the past, you won't always need to use the past tense particle. However, in reality, if you're not sure, it's just best to include it, and you'll be understood. So to review, the past tense particle is pronounced que or ge, depending on the tone that precedes it. It's placed right after the verb, but must be followed by a verb-ending particle, and it's almost always de. Lastly, you may not have to use it if the context makes it clear that it happened in the past. But if you want to be safe, go ahead and include it. That finishes this lesson.